months. Valuable FD.
A very good evening to all our viewers. You're watching Primetime News coming to you live and direct from our Newsfirst studios here in Colombo. For the Newsfirst team, I'm Mariam Gunavijaya. Before we head on to our stories in detail, here is a look at your headlines.
Two dead in tragic car-train collision in Gaul. Trade unions that protested against tax policy returned to work. Federation of University Teachers Association and Ceylon Electricity Board unions continue trade union action. Supreme Court issues interim order preventing local government election for Kaludara Pradeshiya Sabha. Grand finale of the third edition of the Sri Lanka Vanitha Vimana in Colombo. Inflation could drop to 5% by the end of the year, says central bank governor.
On to your lead story this evening. 2 people died following a tragic collision between a speeding train and a car at the Margal Thoda level crossing in Koggala, Gaul. Some of our viewers may find the following footage disturbing, and viewer discretion is advised.
A tragic accident involving a car and a speeding train took place on Thursday afternoon at the railway crossing located close to the fertilizer storage facility in the Habaradua police jurisdiction in Gaul. It was evident that when the car moved onto the tracks, the warning signals were already on. A 35-year-old man from Ahangama and an 80-year-old woman died on the spot. Police spokesperson SSP Nihal Taldua told Newsfirst that the train operating from Colombo to Beliata collided with the car at around 12:30 in the afternoon. Locals who gathered at the crash site were seen making great efforts to retrieve the bodies from the ill-fated vehicle. The car was dragged 300 meters away from the crash site.
In other local developments, the Professionals Trade Union Collective hopes the next round of talks with the President would lead to proper solutions being provided to their issues. They warned if solutions are not provided, they would intensify their trade union action.
Several trade unions that are part of the Professionals Trade Union Collective temporarily called off their strike action that was launched against unjust taxes, bank interest rates and the rising cost of living. The decision was based on a letter addressed to the chairman of the Government Medical Officers Association, Dr. Darshana Sirisena, from the secretary to the president. 47 trade unions, including the government medical officers, specialist doctors, university teachers, CEB engineers, CB employees, bank employees, petroleum employees, water supply officers, road development officers, education administrative officers, surveyors and inland revenue officers joined the one-day strike launched on Wednesday. The Professionals Trade Union Collective met at the GMOA office in Colombo for talks on Thursday.
The President's Secretary had sent a letter to the Professionals Trade Union Collective, and it was of the view that certain time frames given in the letter cannot be accepted. We hope that following the next week's meeting with the President, we can achieve a solution to the tax issue. If not, we will intensify our action.
නිරාකරණය කරගත හැකි මට්ටමේ විසඳුමකට අපිට ළඟා වෙන්න නොහැකි වුණොත් මේ දැනට අත්හිටලා තියෙන තුර්ති සමිති ක්‍රියාමාර්ග තවදුරටත් තීව්‍ර කරන්න.
However, some trade unions have decided to go ahead with the strike, citing that no acceptable solutions were provided to their issues. Certain factions of the Professionals Trade Union Collective are continuing with their trade union action. The Ceylon Electricity Board Engineers Union said The Work to Rule campaign launched on Tuesday will continue until the 21st of March.
විශේෂයෙන් ලංකා විදුලි මණ්ඩලයේ
The Ceylon Electricity Board Engineers Union is engaged in a work to rule campaign. It will be in effect until the 21st of March. The President has called for talks and we will reiterate our demands. In addition, we hope for a resolution during the discussion. We cannot keep on having discussions.
ප්‍රතිඵලයක් බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා. තවදුරටත් සාකච්ඡා කර ඉන්න බෑ.
The Federation of University Teachers Association said that its members will continue to strike against the conduct of the government.
If our demands are not met, as the Professionals Trade Union Collective, we will intensify our action. Although the strike was called off on humane grounds, considering the impact of the patients, most of the other trade unions will continue with the strike.
අනෙක් බොහෝ වෘත්තීය සමිති අපි තවදුරටත් මේ වෘත්තීය සමිති ක්‍රියාමාර්ගය ආරම්භ කරපු වෘත්තීය සමිති වැඩපිළිවෙලේ නිරත වෙලා ඉන්නවා. ඒක ඉදිරියටත් මේ විදිහට පැවතේවි.
The chairman of the University Grants Commission requested the FUTA members to return to the service.
समस्त विश्वविद्यालय पद्धतियेම
Academic activities are taking place within the entire university system. However, the university system is not functioning. I respectfully invite all the university teachers to return to service.
විද්‍යාල ආචාර්යවරුන්ට තමන්ගේ සේවාවේ නියුක්ත වෙන්න කියලා.
Commissioner General of the Examinations, Amit Jayasundara, said the advanced level paper marking process was hampered due to the trade union action adopted by Federation of University Teachers Associations. He said that despite increasing the allowances of taking part in paper marking, teachers have stepped away from the evaluation of answer scripts for the GC advanced level examination, which has been delayed by 22 days. Education Minister Susil Premajayantha commented on the matter.
Students after studying for 13 years sit for the advanced level exam and now the papers are not being marked. The government is being blamed for it. However, this issue applies for all. There was a saying that closing one school will lead to the opening of more prisons. No one speaks about it. The government did not close the schools or declare a holiday. The term examinations are taking place. Those were postponed. The social responsibility must be enforced. There are those who are engaged in the profession and there are those who obstruct it as well. That is the issue.
The Samagi Joint Trade Union Force, addressing a media briefing in Colombo, stressed the government will be given a week to solve the issues of the professionals.
The government says it did not feel the strike. It means that only when people die the government would feel it. We took to the streets on behalf of all the people and not only for the professionals and the doctors. We took a stand against curtailing worker rights. We will intensify this program in 7 days. If not, the day the government would understand this is not far away.
If the government assumes that it can crack down on the protests through threats and intimidation, that is pure deception. If the finance ministry says that one day of strikes cost the country 460 million rupees, imagine the loss that would be incurred for 7 days.
වැඩ වර්ජනයක් තුලදී කුමන ආකාරයේ පාඩුවක් සිද්ධ වෙයිද කියලා මේ රටේ පාලකයෝ දැනගන්න ඕනේ.
The Ceylon Teachers Union said the government must understand the message sent by the professionals.
Before we take our next step, we request the government to provide a solution. If the government does not take a message from this trade union action and call for discussions, no one can stop us from taking further steps.
The Joint Health Workers Union convened a media briefing.
We temporarily suspend our action and it means that it would intensify in the future. Saman Ratna Priya no longer gets information from the hospitals. He said that only 2,000 staff joined the strike. Saman Ratna Priya's job right now is to uplift Ranil Rajapaksha. That is why he makes such comments.
The Progressive Bank Employees Union that did not support the trade union action said the strike on Wednesday was a failure.
What happened yesterday was history's first ever failed strike action. There were political motives among the leaders of the bank union who led the strike. We hope to solve these with the government through dialogue.
Venerable Professor Aglakada Sirisumanathero, the Chief Judicial Sanganayaka of the Western Province, commented on the trade union action that took place on Wednesday.
ඊයේ දවසේ සංකේත වැඩවර්ජනයකින් මුළු රටේ 50% අකර්මණ්‍ය වෙලා.
50% of the country's operations were crippled by yesterday's strike. However, the president, via the secretary, had forwarded a failed letter and did not get involved. He needs to get directly involved. It is disappointing that laws are being introduced to threaten the trade unions who are preparing to protest. This is like being a police officer. We condemn the statements made by the government, president and Bajira Abewardena, who has no power.
නිහෙක් කරන ප්‍රකාශවලට අපි අපේ විරෝධය මේ වෙලාවේ පළ කරන්නට කැමතියි.
The nationwide one-day strike launched by the Professional Trade Union Collective that includes 47 trade unions was a topic discussed in the political fora.
Certain forces and trade unions called for a strike. They could not achieve their desired objective. We need to study the forces behind these strikes. This is not a time for strikes. There are professionals who engage in trade unions as a profession. Has anyone estimated the damage caused to the country and its people? What is the alternative?
කරලා තියනවාද කොතනටද යන්න හදන්නේ විකල්පය මොකක්ද මර්ධනයෙන් විතරක් මේක කරන්න බෑ.
Oppression alone will not work. Ranil Wickramasinghe might try to portray JR, but it will never work. So please listen. You cannot label people claiming they're trying to ruin this country. No one will oppose when the pay tax slab is moved from 100,000 to 200,000 rupees. There will be no social pressure. Understand this.
වැඩි කරාට කවුරු දොස් කියන්නේ නැහනේ. එතකොට විශාල ජනපීඩනයක් නැති වෙනවනේ. මේක තේරුම් ගන්න.
There are 1.497 million workers, and this tax does not apply to 1.417 million of them. This tax affects those university teachers, doctors, engineers who earn more than 500,000 to 600,000 a month. This does not affect the nurses or the water supply employees. How does it affect the teachers? This is a political move. A political agenda was in play with regard to the protests. The JVP was behind it. Sajid Premadasa was behind it. They don't care what happens to the country and the economy as long as they come to power. Wickramasinghe always says he will use oppression against taking to the streets. They have not solved the issues of the people. The same mechanism was used to crack down on the strike. A letter was sent to a trade union that discussions are required with the IMF. If we need to speak to the IMF to solve the issues of the people and the professionals, why is Ranil Wickramasinghe the president?
In the meantime, the Supreme Court issued an interim order preventing the holding of the local government polls for the Kaluthara Pradesh Sabha.
The Supreme Court issued the order after granting permission for the examination of a petition filed by Lanka Freedom Party challenging the decision to reject the nomination list for the Kaluthara Pradesh Sabha. The application was filed by the General Secretary of the Lanka Freedom Party, Tilak Warakagoda, and former Provincial Council member Senal Velgama. Accordingly, the local government election for the Kaluthara Pradesh Sabha cannot take place until a verdict is delivered on the petition, which will be taken up for examination on the 12th of May. In addition, the Supreme Court granted leave to proceed the FR petition filed by Dr. P. Sarvanamuthu as a co-convener of the Centre for Monitoring Election Violence, challenging the postponement of the local government elections. The chairman of the Election Commission, Treasury Secretary, the government printer, among others, were named as respondents. Sri Lanka's Election Commission has decided to summon the secretaries of all political parties that have put forward candidates for the local government election for a meeting. The Election Commission said that the decision was reached during a meeting held on Thursday. Accordingly, the secretaries of all political parties that have put forward candidates for the local government election will meet with the Election Commission at 10 a.m. on the 23rd of March. State Minister Shantha Bandara said, as the Treasury is yet to release funds to print the ballot papers for the local government election, it is like the election would be further delayed.
Not yet. If the Treasury can deliver 300 million rupees, we can commence the process. The government printer has written to the Treasury Secretary and the IGP for funds and protection. Sri Lanka Police has responded with an argument. There is no response with regard to the provision of funds. The government printer has informed this to the Election Commission.
මැතිවරණ කොමසමට මුද්‍රණාලාධිපතිනිය විසින් දැනුම් දීලා තියෙනවා. බොහෝ විට මොකද මම හිතන්නේ තාම ප්‍රමුඛතා ලැයිස්තුවේ පළාත් පාලන මැතිවරණය කියන එකට මුදල් වෙන් කිරීම උඩට ඇවිල්ලා නැහැ කියලායි මගේ පෞද්ගලික විශ්වාසය.
First, with the people.
We're crossing over for a short commercial break. Stay with News First. We will be right back.
News First, main sponsor.
23% for 2 months, 25% for 4 months. Valuable FD.
අපේ රහට නියම කහට.
A trusted place for your fixed deposit. Valuable FD. 23% for 2 months, 25% for 4 months. Valuable FD, a symbol of stability.
Welcome back. You're watching Primetime News on News First. Moving on. The grand finale of Sri Lanka Vanithabhimana 2022, powered by News First and NDB Bank, to empower Sri Lankan women, took place on Thursday evening at Stein Studios in Ratmalana. The gala evening was graced by women representing various fields and distinguished guests.
Sri Lanka Vanithabhimana 2022 Dayanagan Vanita Malaganruma
Sri Lanka Vanithabhimana 2022 is a program organized to empower the women of Sri Lanka and to recognize them for their achievements. The grand finale of Sri Lanka Vanithabhimana 2022 took place at Stein Studios in Ratmalana. Many distinguished guests and invitees graced the occasion with their presence to recognize the women of Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka Vanithabhimana 2022 was powered by Newsfirst and NDB Bank.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Vanithabhimana 2022.
Vanithabhimana 2022 was an island-wide program that spanned across a year to locate Sri Lankan women entrepreneurs living in most remote areas. On Thursday evening, these women walked on the red carpet to the Stein Studios for the grand finale. A panel of experts judged, led by Director General of the Department of Manpower and Employment, Anusha Gokula Fernando, selected the best from the best at Vanithabhimana 2022. New Zealand High Commissioner Michael Appleton as well as Canadian Acting High Commissioner Daniel Bood presented awards. Takeshi Ozaki, the first secretary of the Japanese Embassy in Colombo, also graced the event.
Given the present situation, none of the companies in the business world have decided to come forward with such a program. However, NDB Bank, considering the importance of this program and its national importance, once again joined with us to carry forward the Vanithabhimana program.
Women who brave the challenges in multiple sectors, including sports, entrepreneur microscale, entrepreneur small scale, upcoming entrepreneur, voluntary services, art, education services, and young leader were recognized at the event. Women who excelled in the provincial level competitions under 10 categories qualified for the national level competition. 10 women who excelled in their fields were also recognized at Vanithabhimana 2022. Further, 10 women who excelled at industrial and professional level were also recognized. Veteran actress Anoja Veerasinghe, the first female aviator of Sri Lankan Airlines, Captain Anusha Siriratna, former women's cycling champion Vasanta Kahapula Arachi, veteran radio presenter and actress Ramya Vanigasekara, and Sri Lanka's first professor in mass communication, Professor Ajanta Hapu Arachi, were felicitated with lifetime awards.
But if you look around this auditorium today, and what do you see? This is how women respond to all the challenges placed before them by forging their own paths, becoming leaders in their own right, and excelling in their own fields. Look at what everyone being feted here today has achieved. This is what happens when women get the opportunities they deserve. And it's up to us as corporates to create these opportunities to create gender equity. What I think we should aspire for is to create a level playing field where we don't need a Women's Day or a celebration of women's achievements. A day when there are equal and equitable opportunities regardless of gender, where everyone will be judged only on merits of their work.
ලංකාවේ 51ක් ජනගහනයෙන් කාන්තාවන් වුණත්
Although 51% of Sri Lanka's population are women, around 34% actively contribute to the country's economy. When you consider this, it is a low number. Around 29% of them actually make an impact on the economy. We need to further encourage women and increase their engagement with the country's economy. 18 outstanding women entrepreneurs, professionals were recognized, and on behalf of NDB Bank, I wish to congratulate everyone recognized here today.
නැවතත් NDB බැංකුවෙන් අපේ සුබ පැතුම් පිරිනමනවා.
ඉතාමත්ම වැදගත් වන්නේ ජනතාව සහ ජනතාව අතර තියෙන සම්මුතිය.
The most important aspect of today is the consensus among the people. If we do not struggle on behalf of our own, if we don't join hands for the future of this country, we will be divided and the situation of the country will deteriorate even further. Therefore, the consensus among the people is vital, and the best example for that is the struggle that was launched by women to secure women's rights. We can learn from that struggle. We need to understand that the system change that we want to see in our country should not be limited to mere words. We can move forward towards a country that we all dream of, with leadership that thinks fresh, leaving behind the old system of leadership. Let's spend this evening with that positive thought in mind.
අලුතෙන් හිතන නායකත්වයත් සමග ඉදිරියට යා හැකි. ඒ පිළිබඳව මම හිතන්නේ අපි හැමෝම ඒ සුබවාදී ප්‍රාර්ථනාවත් සමග මේ සන්ධ්‍යාව ගත කරමු.
Actress Shalini Taraka was adjudged the most popular woman at Sri Lanka Vanitha Abhimana 2022.
ඇය අපේ කුමරිය, ඇය සිරස කුමරිය, ඇය අපේ රටේ ජනප්‍රියම කාන්තාව ශාලිනී තාරකා.
The women who made the top 5 at Sri Lanka Vanitha Abhimana 2022 were actress Shalini Taraka, actress Dusheni Mayurangi, musician Kanchana Anuradi, actress Ruwangi Ratnayaka, and female cricketer Chamari Atapattu.
ආරාධනා කරනවා අපේ ගෞරවනීය සභාවරිය අමිතාන්ට මෙවර වනිතා අභිමාන 2022 ජනප්‍රියම සම්මානය වෙනුවෙන් නිර්දේශ වූ අපේ රටේ තවත් අපි ආදරය කරන තාරකාවියන් මොකද හිතෙන්නේ මේ මොහොත අද කවදාවත් මම වෙවුලනවා එහෙම වෙන්න බෑ සම්මාන ගොඩකින් ඔබ පිටින් ලැබුණු කෙනෙක් ඔව් ඉතින් මම හිතනවා මේ සම්මානය විශේෂයි කියලා මොකද
This award is very special because it is something dedicated for women. I am humbled to have walked up this stage, and I am thankful to all women, viewers and Sirasa that supported me to reach where I am today.
වගේම මට මේ තැනට එන්න උදව් කරපු සියලුම කාන්තාවන්ට සියලුම ප්‍රේක්ෂකයන්ට ගොඩක් ස්තුතියි. වගේම සිරසට විශේෂයෙන්ම ස්තුතියි හැමදාමත් වගේ මාව හොයාගත්තට.
ශ්‍රී ලංකා වනිතා අභිමාන 2022.
Azosa Kubota, the UNDP resident representative in Sri Lanka, met with opposition leader Sajid Premadasa in Colombo.
The meeting between the UNDP resident representative and opposition leader took place at the office of the opposition leader. The opposition leader, while appreciating the efforts of the United Nations organization to consolidate democracy, emphasized the importance of the organization's active intervention in ensuring sovereignty of the people of Sri Lanka by holding elections. High Commissioner to Sri Lanka and Maldives Eric Walsh also called on opposition leader Sajid Premadasa on Thursday morning. A wide range of bilaterally important issues were discussed at the meeting. Issues such as the consolidation of democracy and the democratization of the existing balancing process among the three pillars, the legislature, executive and the judiciary, to secure democracy were also discussed.
In news making headlines this evening, Sri Lanka's Central Bank Governor Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe believes inflation in the country would drop to around 5% by the end of the year. He was speaking at an event organised to elaborate on the new Central Bank of Sri Lanka bill in Colombo.
මහ බැංකුවට තියෙන උපකරණ දෙක තමයි ඉල්ලුම පාලනය කරන එකක් පොලි අනුපාතය දේශීය අනිත් එක පිනුම අනුපාතය. මේ දෙක
There are two tools with the central bank. One is to control the demand and the other is to control local rates and exchange rates. If we do not allow these rates to move, inflation cannot be stabilized. We are aware that the rates were fixed in 2020, 2021 and 2022. Because the exchange rate was pegged at 203, we lost all of our reserves and the country was declared bankrupt. There is much debate on the interest rates and the exchange rates. When the rates fluctuate, comments are made by the ruling faction, opposition, some experts as well as ex-central bank officials citing reasons for the fluctuation. They say it was not the central bank's job and it was someone else's. If the central bank is independent and functions independently, then the responsibility lies with the central bank. Because the rates were independently raised, inflation was somewhat controlled. We believe that inflation would drop to around 5% by the end of the year. In 2020 and 2021, the rate was held at 203 until the reserves depleted. My predecessor allowed it to happen without the approval of the monetary board. Then what was at 203 landed at 380. There are ways to make the rates more flexible. What was at 360 has been reduced to 320 based on the market fluctuations.
විනයනුපාතයක් ෆ්ලෙක්සිබල් කරන්න කලින් ඊට වලින් කරන්න තියෙන ගොඩක් ಜಾති තියෙනවා. ඒ ඔක්කොම කරාට පස්සේ අතරියම තමයි අර පහුගිය දවස් වෙච්ච අර 360 තිබිච්ච එක දැන් මේ ඇවිල්ලා තියෙන 320ට විතර අඩලා දැන් ඒක වෙළඳපොළ අනුව උච්චාවචනය වෙනවා.
The central bank governor also spoke about the independence of the central bank.
What you say suits the UK or India. This is Sri Lanka. Commissions were appointed to be independent. What has happened to the election commission? It is in a position where it cannot do anything. There is no good in appointing people without a backbone. What is happening is an attempt to politicize the central bank under the guise of autonomy.
මේක දේශපාලනය කරන්න තමයි මේ මහ බැංකුව පත් කරන්න හදන්නේ.
ඒ කියන්නේ හැටියෙම නම් ඒ හැටියෙ
That is how it is. So we cannot maintain that. We need a system change. This is done to avoid the issues that were created by previous systems.
මේක කරලා තියෙන්නේ.
The new Central Bank of Sri Lanka bill is now with Parliament and it aims to further open the country's main regulator. However, concerns are mounting, citing that the bill is in fact presented to politicize and control the central bank.
The government has gazetted a Central Bank of Sri Lanka bill to repeal the existing Monetary Law Act, which is presently governing the Central Bank of Sri Lanka. The Monetary Law Act established Sri Lanka's monetary system and the Central Bank in 1949. According to the Central Bank Executive Officers Union, the new Central Bank of Sri Lanka bill may deviate from its ultimate purpose, citing several issues and call for amendments in Parliament. They claim that certain clauses in the new Central Bank of Sri Lanka bill raises concerns on possible impediments to central bank independence. Section 15 subsection 7 of the bill notes that the finance minister, with the concurrence of the governing board, will determine the number of deputy governors of the central bank. According to the Central Bank Executive Officers Union, this move alone could be interpreted as direct interference with the management of the central bank. Moreover, section 15 subsection 9 of the bill notes that deputy governors of the central bank may be appointed from among persons other than the employees of the central bank. According to the Central Bank Executive Officers Union, this would pave the way for political interference in the position, as nominations are also done by the finance minister.
The previous, the existing central bank is a much better one than the one that has been proposed. So these things will have to be changed. And also at the same time, in the new bill, there is no specific term for the governor of the central bank, whereas in the previous bill, governor could serve only 6 years. And he could be reappointed. And if we look at these new changes that have been made, I find the governance structure that has been proposed in the new act would permit the Minister of Finance to make more interference, a greater interference in the work of the central bank than the previous act. Therefore, this has to be amended, changed, and central bank should be made independent, not because the IMF wants it, because central bank's independence is crucial to the citizens of this country who hold on to the money balances, where the ministers of finance had in the past eroded the value of that money by getting the central bank to print money and finance the government budget deficit.
The UK government launched its new developing countries trading scheme with the participation of key Sri Lankan government and business stakeholders.
According to the UK High Commission in Colombo, Sri Lankan exporters will benefit from generous tariff cuts and new products will be brought into scope. The new DCTS will facilitate access to the UK market for Sri Lankan businesses across a wide range of industries.
Because the sectors have broadened slightly, we really want Sri Lanka to be able to take advantage of that. We are very grateful for the very warm dialogue and interaction that we have with so many businesses here. We're very keen to encourage and grow that part of the bilateral relationship.
In international developments, an Indonesian court on Wednesday sentenced a police officer to 18 months in prison after convicting him on charges related to firing tear gas into a crowd of thousands at a soccer match, which led to 135 people being killed as panicked fans stampeded to avoid the gas.
An official report in the tragedy had concluded that the firing of tear gas into the crowd had been the cause of the deaths. The convicted officer, who was named as Hasdarmawan, headed a paramilitary police unit known as Brismob and had ordered the firing of tear gas as crowds thronged onto the field after the end of the match in Malang, East Java on the 1st of October 2022. 10 other policemen, including the chief of police of Malang, were sacked following the tragedy. 2 football officials have already been jailed over the tragedy at the match. Another police officer was acquitted by the court in Surabaya. The verdict with regard to a third police officer is pending.
The 144th Battle of the Blues Royal Thomaian cricket encounter got underway at the SSC grounds in Colombo. Batting first, Royal College posted 326 runs for the loss of 8 wickets at the close of play on day 1.
The 144th Battle of the Blues Royal Thomaian cricket encounter got underway at the SSC grounds in Colombo. Romesh Mendis led the Thomaian team while Dasis Manchanayaka captained the Royal side. It was St Thomas's College that won the toss in the 144th edition of the Battle of the Blues, and they decided to field first. Rehan Peiris and Sinet Jayawardena opened the Royal College innings, and their partnership was short-lived when Akash Fernando picked up the wicket of Rehan Peiris. Royal College lost 4 wickets inside 64 runs in their first essay. However, skipper Dasis Manchanayaka and Ramiro Pereira steadied the ship for the Royalists with a massive 228-run 5th wicket stand. Skipper Dasis Manchanayaka posted 137 runs that included 17 fours. Ramiro Pereira scored 128 runs that included 15 fours and 2 sixes. Akash Fernando picked up 4 wickets for St Thomas's College, while Kavindu Dias bagged 3 wickets.
And that's a wrap of this edition of Primetime News on TV1. For the Newsfirst team, I'm Mariam Pinavijaya. Good night and take care.